Campfire Classics is a classic literature podcast. However, your hosts will occasionally use not-so-classy language and immature humor to describe very mature situations. As such, listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Ken Sandberg.
And I'm Heather Michelle Lawler.
Welcome to Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
The Super Bowl was last night, and it really pissed off some people. But I'm gonna say ha 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 to the fucker who showed up. We don't like him, he is a poop. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they took a shit. And that is all I have to say. Kendrick Lamar kicked ass.
Well, 'tis the season, huh?
I don't know why it came out in that Christmas song. No idea. I just, like I said, I don't think about what I'm going to say until the moment hums, and then that's what comes out of my mouth.
Sometimes you just need a good Christmas tune. Welcome to Christmas in February.
I mean, it's still cold and dark out, so.
It is, and our tree's still up.
Our tree's still up, so you know what? Fuck it. 'Tis the season. And, yeah. It was very loud.
La heart-shaped candy.
It was very loud in Philadelphia last night, as you can probably imagine, anyone listening.
Yeah. It was a couple nights ago, at least, you're listening to this.
As you're listening.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, it was, I didn't watch it because I said if not everyone's kneeling on the Star Spangled Banner, then I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I turned it off, and then we watched the halftime show.
And the Puppy Bowl.
And we watched the Puppy Bowl.
Which is always super cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so good. The puppies. We've like little Alice.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite? Your favorite was Lightning.
Yeah. She's
So
such a pretty girl.
sweet.
Such a pretty girl.
Oh.
Husky and something else. But just this long,
Like lanky, brown, and pretty
sort of
giant
gawky,
ear dog.
awkward looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was like Beethoven and Trio, the three-legged pupper.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And Max, the other three-legged pupper.
Yes. They were all precious, and that was definitely the best way to spend our evening.
Yeah.
Was spending like 4 hours watching puppies.
It was very cute. I believe as of this morning, almost every dog that was there has been adopted, and most of the sort of non-participants who were adoptable through the Puppy Bowl website have also gone.
Good.
That's the awesome thing that they do. So for those of you who don't know, the Puppy Bowl happens every year on Big Game Sunday. And it's through the Discovery Channel. Is that correct?
I think so. Discovery sounds right.
Yeah, I think it's Discovery Channel.
Or Animal Planet was one of the sponsors, but I don't think it happens on Animal Planet.
But basically what you do is you watch a bunch of puppies run around a tiny football field, scoring touchdowns by carrying toys into the end zones. And they mostly just sort of flop around and drink water and run into each other and pee.
Play on each other. And
but
one
really what it is, one of them pooped on the field. There's, in recent years, there's a kitty halftime show every year.
Yep.
And really what it is it's a way to encourage people to adopt, and specifically to adopt, don't shop.
Yeah.
It's encouraging, like there are so many pets, so many animals out there who are who have been left on streets or have been turned in to shelters because a family pet got pregnant and they didn't realize she could. They thought she was fixed or whatever.
Yeah.
And just so many sweet little
that's how I got Lina.
Who need some love. And why spend $6,000 on a designer dog when you could go down to the local shelter and pay? Usually it's something like $85, $100, whatever, and they get all their shots and they're fixed. And
that's just to cover the shelter doing all the things that you would have to do for a lot more money.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful and wholesome, and it just shows that if you need a little furry friend at home, which I highly recommend having, then head to your local shelter and adopt. And if you can't adopt, maybe fostering or even just volunteering.
Yeah.
Or raising awareness of the ability to adopt.
Yeah. Go check out the Puppy Bowl website online, and they have all kinds of information on that.
They are not an official sponsor, but fuck it.
But like
we love them.
Looking to share information that will hopefully bring puppies and kitties and whatever other strange pets you might want into a good and loving home. I'm sure you can adopt like lizards and
I'm sure they have like exotic
too.
pets and stuff. I have no doubt, because I'm sure those get abandoned a lot because people are like, I want a snake. And then they like don't realize you have to have like a heated tank and all these things. Like
fish. Goddamn, fish are a lot of work.
It depends on the kind of fish, but yes. I mean,
but even no matter what the kind of fish is, it's still like you need a tank that is an appropriate size. You need to there needs to be stuff in the tank in order to keep them entertained. You need to clean out the tank super regularly, unless you've got this elaborate, expensive
like
filtration
self-cleaning tank
system. That fish are a lot of work.
Fish are a lot of work.
Don't just go out and get a fish thinking like, oh, this is an easy little starter pet. No, there's a lot of work.
Don't just go out and get anything just because you're like, this will be easy, because it's a commitment. So
it's not. Even plants are hard to keep alive.
I'm worse at plants than Lina. You know that.
Well, yeah, but
Lina can scream at me.
Plants don't yell at you when you forget to feed them. We've had a couple of write-ins over the last couple of weeks about our last couple of episodes. One thing that I found interesting is we've had a couple of people point out, we're going back a couple of weeks now to the apple.
Yes.
Answering the question about would you take a bite? Would you eat it? Well, what a couple of people
for people not listening, go listen to that episode, and it's the apple of knowledge.
Yes, it's the fruit from the tree of knowledge. What a couple of people have pointed out is that biblically speaking, now this is separate from what the story says, but that actually, according to what it is saying in the Bible, the tree of knowledge, taking a bite from the fruit, gives you specific knowledge, not omnipotent knowledge. And it is a knowledge of the difference of good and evil, and it gives you a sort of free will to choose between good and evil rather than just sort of doing what you're told. And given that, there would be no reason to take a bite of what they're saying is, no, I wouldn't take a bite from that fruit because there's no point, because the knowledge of good and evil has already permeated mankind.
Because we're already aware of it.
We have, at least the extent as it is expressed in the Bible, we already have that free will.
Because Eve and Adam took it.
Because Adam and Eve took it, yes. So there has been that response. It's interesting to me that the people that have responded with that sort of couching it rather than in the rules of the story, where if you take a bite, you get omnipotent knowledge. Would you go ahead and do that? But I actually do think that's interesting. It's like fair point. We don't actually know what the fruit would do.
We don't, but like what it sounded like, at least if that man knew what he was talking about that had it.
Yeah.
Not to like, again, spoilers. If you haven't listened to the story, turn this off and go listen, and then come back. It sounded like it would be like infinite knowledge of past, present. You basically become Brandon Stark from Game of Thrones when he becomes the three-eyed raven. And so then you're just this person. I'm not Brandon Stark. So that kind of feels like what it is. Yeah. It's like you become this all-knowing being, and can you handle that?
Yeah.
So I would have to take a bite.
But anyway, so there's that. The other thing, less interesting responses to last week, mostly just yeses and nos. But it was, hang on, I'm going to pull it up.
Less interesting or less analytical?
Less analytical, yeah. Not less interesting. I was like,
damn, that hurts.
Like people saying either yes, they knew who Zoroaster was, or no, they didn't.
So this is referencing last week's episode, and a reference in that story.
Yeah. Would you take the anti-aging drug? Yeah, Probably.
Yeah. I would take it at least once.
For a while.
Yeah. But, like, it's that whole thing. Does anyone actually want to be immortal? Like, because then you literally spend your life, like, watching people die. So, like, I guess in this case, everybody
Not
had
if
the
everyone's
option.
immortal. Yeah.
But, like that is the question: is how fun is that actually? Like,
yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I still say I would take it, for a while.
At least for a while, and then you could stop if you get bored.
And then you can just be like, I'm good.
However, from separate from any of that stuff,
Ooh, we've had a lot of like interaction this couple
Doug
weeks.
wrote in to say, I feel as a society we should replace the phrase penis joke with wang witticism. Which I like. And in fact, I like it enough to want to turn it into a recurring bit here at Campfire Classics.
Oh, that's what you were talking about.
Because that was not only another way to put it, thank you very much, but also alliterative wang witticism. I want to come up with a new alliterative version of penis joke for every letter of the alphabet. Starting with A, I already have an idea.
You already have an idea
Yes.
for A? It has to be about the penis particularly? Or
Well,
can it
so
be any, like...
My idea for A
Okay.
is that it would be arousing amusement,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Arousing amusement or arousal amusement? Aroused amusement?
Aroused amusement?
Aroused amusement?
Well, I guess it depends if it's hanging down or if it's saying hello.
Sure. But in terms of another euphemism for penis joke, an aroused amusement.
An aroused amusement is funny.
Do we like that?
I like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So this week, we'll be dealing with aroused amusements.
That's what we will be making jokes about. That sounds so much more...
Hornier?
Not even hornier. It actually sounds, and I think it's because it's not something we've used before or that is a common phrase. So it sounds more academic and more literate. And like it's like today on Aroused Amusements. It's like it sounds like an NPR show.
Yeah. Well, frankly, which is sort of what wang witticisms sounds like.
Now, wang witticism sounds like a segment from Wayne's World.
Wayne's witticisms.
Wang's like it sounds like a 90s guys in their basement being like, this week's wang witticisms.
I like
Whereas
it.
Aroused Amusements by NPR.
So anyway, this week from Campfire Classics, we bring you Aroused Amusements.
Indeed. And by doing that, we do what here at
Yeah, that was my beginning of a segue into the explanation. So we are a very academic podcast,
Super
very
academic.
NPR here at Campfire Classics, where
and the fact that we make no money and we do it for the fun of it,
the love of the game. We're here for the love of the game.
And a little education.
Occasionally, someone learns something.
Occasionally, yeah.
Usually it's me learning how to pronounce a word.
Or me learning how to do French accents. Or not learning how to do French accents.
But what we do here at Campfire Classics is we read short stories. We read them sight unseen, cold to you here on the air, and we attempt to say things correctly, which is often very difficult. We choose character voices on the fly, and we often make fun of antiquated language that in the day was perfectly normal, but today has become an aroused amusement.
Aroused indeed.
Also things like old-timey racism and just general bad taste.
It happens.
It happens. So that's what we do here at Campfire Classics. This week, it's my turn to read a story, which means Heather has chosen a story for me. She's about to hand that over to me, but before she does, she's going to go ahead and share some fun facts.
Fun facts. All right, so this author we have read before, but we have not read this author since 2020.
Oh, shit.
So
back in the day.
This was episode 36.
Okay.
So actually, I think it was 2021 by the time we actually got to that. But it was within our first year.
Yeah,
of
it would have been
episodes.
that 36. That would have been
right
like
near the end.
February or March.
Because we did 5 right away, and then we were doing 1 a week. So anything within 30.
Yeah. Would have been spring of 2021.
Yeah. So it's been a long time.
Great.
And the story we read of this person was one of their more playful child like fairy tale type stories, and this is going to be one of their other styles. Oh, good. I know. So
the last story was happy, and this week I'm gonna want to go lay in bed.
I think it's like a gothic horror story, so it's probably going to be like fun.
So I'm going to want to go hide under the bed.
Yes, exactly. So I will stop being elusive and tell you that today's author is Frank Richard Stockton, or Francis Stockton. If you remember anything about this, he wrote The Lady or the Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
So
that was a wild one.
It was a wild one, and that was his most famous story. But what he became known for was his childlike, because he how do I phrase this? He became known for children's stories. That's the word, children's stories. He became known for children's stories because those are the ones that kind of stuck. But he was very, very, very famous and for writing novels and gothic horror and short stories for literature and all these things.
I mean, sort of like A.A. Milne, who became famous for those Winnie the Pooh things, but his catalog is deep.
Exactly. So I thought it would be important to come back to this person and give a little bit of their other stuff a chance. But since we haven't done any fun facts about this person since 2021, I'm just doing a few fun facts. I'm assuming, like me, you have forgotten some of this stuff. So I'm just going to do a little recap and add a couple things. I went and listened to the episode of the fun facts. This was actually the story when we read The Lady or the Tiger was our second or third episode of True Crimes and a Lie. Yeah. And it was the one Ashley and Jeff were on. Aww. My sister and her husband were on, at the time her fiance. So we know that. And that was really fun to listen to. I was like, oh my gosh, hey.
Oh yeah, so that would have been February, because I remember where we recorded that.
We were at my friend's house because we were house sitting, yes. To go back to his fairy tales, what made his fairy tales stand out and why they kind of stood the test of time over maybe some of the other stuff is his fairy tales were actually happy. Whereas like Grimm's fairy tales, like a lot of the fairy tales that were coming out were very moral based and very dark and like had a twist. Yeah. And his were more like, let's enjoy life a little bit. Yeah. So
worth pointing out, if you don't remember or haven't listened yet to episode 36. We don't know if the tiger or the woman or the tiger or the tiger woman was a happy ending or not.
We don't. It was a very what?
Sung-tung.
You decide. I also thought it was appropriate that we return to Frank Stockton because he was born in Philadelphia.
Hey, what's up, Philly boys?
Go Birds. Not ironically, I'm really glad the Eagles won, but over the Chiefs. I mean, yeah.
I have mixed feelings.
We all have mixed feelings, but go Philandelphia.
I'm going to go check on the car later, and that's going to tell me how happy I am.
I almost walked by earlier and decided not to. But yeah, he was born in Philadelphia in 1834. He was just giving a little recap of his life. He was born to a decently well-off family. He really wanted to be a writer from a young age because much like most of our authors, he had a very kind of sickly childhood. He hurt himself at a young age and couldn't go outside to play. So he started writing. And then his dad was like, hell no, you're not going to be a writer. So he went and became...
No son of mine's going to be some pansy-ass artist.
I think you said almost that exact same phrase in the last episode in 36. I'm not even kidding. You kind of responded that exact way.
That makes sense.
That's really funny.
I'm not good at being original. I even steal my own material.
That was really weird because I was like, whoa, deja vu. Oh, wait, no, I just listened to it. So he went off to become a woodworker of all things and moved to Jersey and got married and, had you can't find a lot of information about him because he lived a very simple life and very good life because there's not a lot of drama, He got married. When his father died, he decided, fuck it, I'm going to be a writer.
Yeah. He went, ding dong, the witch is dead.
Now, part of that was because he had an injury to his eyesight that actually caused him to not be able to do his woodworking as much. Oh. And so he started turning to writing, and he was having his wife or friends dictate. He was dictating his stories.
Sure, yeah.
But his eyesight did clear up for a while, and then as he got older, it went away again. But yeah, he continued to write throughout his life, and a lot of that was eyesight issue, and then his father passing away.
Yeah, we had a woman a couple of weeks ago who was a blind author who had to work through someone taking dictation.
Yeah, it was like an eye infection that left him partially blind, and it was a permanent injury, though he did not go completely blind. But that kind of was like, let's not be a woodworker anymore. Maybe saw's not a good thing. Yeah. The pen is mightier than the saw when it comes to an eye injury. Or I guess the saw is mightier than the pen because you'll probably chop your hand off if you have trouble seeing. And
there's much greater danger of self-injury with a saw than with a quill.
Yes, exactly. So, like I said, he doesn't have a lot of drama in his life. He lived out his life in New Jersey, Philadelphia, eventually had a home in West Virginia. He was known for his children's stories, but he also wrote adult fiction, ghost stories, humor, fantasy, and science fiction, actually.
Oh, cool.
One of his first works of science fiction was called The Great War Syndicate.
Okay.
And this described, so he was born in the early 1800s.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like H.G. Wells era.
Yeah.
Sci-fi.
Yes.
Like this is early science fiction.
And so
Jules Verne kind of stuff.
Yeah. And like a lot of science fiction, you're like, how did he know this? Because he describes a late 19th century British-American war. So some sort of World War-esque.
1880s, 1890s.
An American syndicate that was made up of some of America's richest men and ablest scientists that conduct a war on behalf of the United States. The syndicate quickly wins this nearly bloodless war by repeatedly demonstrating an overwhelming technological superiority. It does this through some inventions, things like the internet that we didn't know was a thing. Like he didn't call it the internet, but like that computers and that kind of stuff. And then especially a motor bomb, which was much like nuclear bombs that were later developed. So they had not even been developed for almost a half a century later.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That could level entire cities. So also in another one of his science fiction stories, Negative Gravity, the protagonist invents a device that counteracts the force of gravity, letting people walk lightly upon the earth or even float about it. This device makes weightless and work easier. So he says he agreed, and then this character agrees with his wife not to share the invention with the world because, and I can read this whole quote, now there will be companies, patents, lawsuits, experiments, people calling you a humbug, and other people saying they discovered this long time ago, all sorts of persons coming to see you, and you'll be obliged to go to all sorts of places. You will be an altered man, and we shall never be happy again. Millions of money will not repay us for the happiness we would have lost.
Aw.
So the guy keeps the invention to himself so he can live a peaceful and happy life as opposed to, becoming that guy.
Yeah, nobody wants to be that guy.
I mean,
some people are just better at staving it off than others.
I mean, most people aren't good at being that guy. So anyway, that's some of his science fiction, which I did not delve into at all last time. Again, he's been compared to Mark Twain, which I mentioned last time, and like his writing styles. And today, like I said, you're going to be reading one of his Gothic stories. And the name of that story is The Philosophy of Relative Existences by Frank Stockton.
All right, let's start this fire. The Philosophy of Relative Existences by Frank Stockton. In a certain summer not long gone, my friend Bentley and I found ourselves in a little hamlet which overlooked a placid valley through which a river gently moved, winding its way through green stretches until it turned the end of a line of... Fuck me.
I was like,
I thought I was going to get to the end of that one.
I was like, I think you're going to have to take a breath.
Whew. Long sentence. Okay, but now I'm prepared.
Now you're ready.
In a certain summer not long gone, my friend Bentley and I found ourselves in a little hamlet which overlooked a placid valley through which a river gently moved, winding its way through green stretches until it turned the end of a line of low hills and was lost to view.
Did you do that all in one breath?
Sure did.
Damn. Because there are 2 commas, so you could take a catch.
That's the coward's way out.
That is the coward's way out. Good job, baby. This also sounds lovely.
Yeah. Beyond this river, far away, but visible from the door of the cottage where we dwelt, there lay a city. Through the mists which floated over the valley, we could see the outlines of steeples and tall roofs, and buildings of a character which indicated thrift and business stretched themselves down to the opposite edge of the river. The more distant parts of the city, evidently a small one, lost themselves in a hazy summer atmosphere.
Okay, so they're at their little country cottage.
Yep.
Like on the hill overlooking Milwaukee or something. Like it's a city, but it's not like New York City. It's like... It's like...
Madison.
Yeah. Like, there's a couple tall buildings, but for most of it's just kind of in the mist.
Bentley was young, fair-haired, and a poet.
Ugh.
I was a philosopher.
Ugh.
Or trying to be one.
A poet and a philosopher go on vacation.
Yeah, that's the start of...
That's the start
a joke.
That's the start of a joke, or the start of like a revolution, or the start of the most annoying vacation of all time.
I think it's the start of a Tom Stoppard play, actually.
Absolutely, yes, it fucking is. Yeah. Yep. It's a Tom Stoppard play. It's
a poet and a philosopher went on vacation and talked for 2.5 hours, and nobody knows what just happened.
And then you have to read the 20-page program to have any understanding of what you just listened to. You know it was good, but you don't have any idea what you just listened to. Yeah.
Yep. We were good friends and had come down into this peaceful region to work together. Although we had fled from the bustle and distractions of the town, the appearance in this rural region of a city which, for long sentences that meander just like the river at the top of this story, are going to be the hallmark of this entire episode.
It is an aroused amusement to ramble.
Sometimes the smaller aroused amusements get lost in the haze.
Which is probably for the best in most cases.
We were good friends and had come down into this peaceful region to work together. Although we had fled from the bustle and distractions of the town, the appearance in this rural region of a city which, so far as we could observe, exerted no influence on the quiet character of the valley in which it lay, aroused our interest.
Hey, it's the word of the day! Ding, 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 ding. Pee-wee would be so happy right now.
Yeah, so they left the hustle and bustle of the city, and this little town aroused them.
The cottage aroused their amusement.
No craft plied up and down the river. There were no bridges from shore to shore. There were none of those scattered and half-squalid habitations which generally are found on the outskirts of a city. There came to us no distant sound of bells, and not the smallest wreath of smoke rose from any of the buildings.
So this was pre-urban sprawl of the city.
This is pre-discovery of fire, apparently.
Well, not discovery of fire. It's just those houses are not habitated.
Yeah.
Habitated? Yeah, that's correct. I think.
Inhabited?
Inhabited. There it is. Habitated? I was like, that's not a word.
It is now.
It certainly is. They're in this tiny little town, and they're the only ones there right now.
Psst, is that house empty? Nah, man, it's habitated.
They just don't like fire.
In answer to our inquiries, our landlord told us that the city over the river had been built by one man who was a visionary and who had a great deal more money than common sense.
Huh. Interesting.
It is not as big a town as you would think, sirs, he said, because the general mistiness of things in this valley makes them look larger than they are. Those hills, for instance, when you get to them, are not as high as they look to be from here. But the town is big enough, and a good deal too big, for it ruined its builder and owner, who, when he came to die, had not money enough left to put up a decent tombstone at the head of his grave. He had a queer idea that... I don't know what this guy's accent is.
You have gone from, like small town British guy to, like, Jersey to, like, now Southern.
It's a meandering thing.
You are literally every small town random dude landlord.
I'm just playing archetypes.
Okay, I love it.
It's this. What's your accent? Generic. Generic what?
Small town landlord.
Just generic. It's a generic accent, you know.
I'm just habitating in this character.
I'm still finding him. I'm still finding the character.
Okay. So this guy built this giant city and then wasted all his money, and then when he
couldn't
died,
even
he
put up
couldn't
a tombstone.
put up a tombstone.
He had a queer idea that we would like to have his fucking hell. He had a queer idea that he would like to have his town all finished before anybody lived in it. And so he kept on working and spending money year after year and year after year until the city was done and he had not a cent left. During all the time that the place was building, hundreds of people came to him to buy houses or to hire them, but he would not listen to anything of the kind. No one must live in his town until it was all done. Even his workmen were obliged to go away at night to lodge. It is a town, sirs, I am told, in which nobody has slept for even a night. There are streets there and places of business and churches and public halls and everything that a town full of inhabitants could need, but it is all empty and deserted and has been so as far back as I can remember, and I came to this region when I was a little boy.
Ew, that's really fucking creepy.
And the town is all yours if you spend just one night in it alone.
I mean, basically. I mean, talk about a ghost town. But nobody ever lived there. So it, except him.
Except him.
That's really fucking creepy, though. I mean, I've heard of stories like this of, how there's a famous, mansion.
The Winchester House?
Yes. This is like the Winchester House, but a city.
But a whole town.
They just kept building and building and building, and half of it didn't even make sense. and then they died.
They got alleys that dead end into the river and trees in the middle of houses.
And like nobody ever even got to enjoy it because they just kept building.
I had a vision
in sight.
I had a vision as he was talking of him being like, oh, the town's not as big as you think it is, sirs. It's actually only 20 yards that way. It's a perspective thing. None of the buildings are higher than your hip.
I have it actually as like the scene in Zoolander where he's like, how are kids supposed to learn to read when they can't even fit in the building?
Is this a school for ants?
And the whole thing is actually just a model because of the perspective. It's like...
And is there no one to guard the place, we asked? No one to protect it from wandering vagrants who might choose to take possession of the buildings? There are not many vagrants in this part of the country, he said, and if there were, they would not go over to that city. It is haunted.
Okay, first of all, unhoused people don't give a fuck if it's haunted. They're going to show up. Well, I guess that's not true. I mean, if it really is haunted, we're going to find out. But if word gets out that there's like an entire city of like beautiful buildings and homes that no one ever moved into, that's squatters' rights. That's some fucking squatters' rights.
Someone's moving in, even if they're people who like they don't speak the language, so they can't understand
that it's haunted.
The story is no, someone's moving in.
Or I mean, there's plenty of people out there that don't believe in ghosts, like
Or people have moved in and they've been murdered by ghosts, and now they have joined the haunted army.
What ghosts do you know?
Personally?
Yeah.
None.
Okay. They usually don't murder. They usually drive you crazy, so you end up taking care of yourself. There aren't a lot of ghosts, like in the movie Ghosts, that can actually like shove you around. That's a demon.
I've seen Haunting at Hill House. There's some straight up murder happening there.
Well, those are demons. That's like the portal to hell.
So maybe this town is haunted by a portal to hell.
Yeah, well, let's read on and find out what kind of haunted.
It's set up on top of a hellmouth. BT Dubs super excited for the reboot of Buffy that is apparently actually going to happen. Throwing that into the universe.
That's what they say.
That's what she said.
It is what she said because there's a woman directing it, and Sarah Michelle Gellar said, "Yeah, let's do it."
It is haunted. By what? We asked. Well, sirs, I scarcely can tell you. Queer things that are not flesh and blood. He's turning into Bartok.
Yeah, I was like, why is he Russian now? I was like, when you said it is haunted, I was like, and thy kicker, sir.
Well, sirs, I can scarcely tell you. Queer things that are not the flesh and blood. And that is all I know about it.
Just so everyone at home listening knows, this is the same person that's been talking the whole time. The like landlord man. He's just he's indecisive.
He's from the southern part of Northeast Westia.
Of everywhere.
Well, sirs, I scarcely can tell you. Queer beings that are not flesh and blood, and that is all I know about it. Good many people living hereabouts have visited that place once in their lives, but I know of no one who has gone there a second time.
Okay, so something bad happens when you go. All right. You know they're going to go. The poet and the philosopher, there's no fucking way they're like, who would turn that down? I mean, I know a lot of the listeners at home are with me on this. If I found out a place is haunted, I'm going there at the strike of midnight. And I have the stories to tell from it. It's great.
And travelers, I said, are they not excited by curiosity to explore that strange, uninhabited city? Oh, yes, our host replied. Almost all visitors to the valley go over to that queer city.
He's really obsessed with this place being a gay city.
Yeah.
Or a queer city.
That's what's really haunting it.
Oh my God. It's where the Pink Pony Club is.
It's haunted by the gays.
It's the Pink Pony Club. We're gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club because we are ghosts at the Pink Pony Club. I'm gonna keep on singing because I love it. I'm just now imagining a ghost bar like jamming to Chapel Roan. Like, it's really fun.
It's the undead gay bar.
It's amazing.
Almost all visitors to the valley go to that queer city, generally in small parties, for it is not a place in which one wishes to walk about alone. Sometimes they see things and sometimes they don't, but I never knew any man or woman to show a fancy for living there, although it is a very good town.
Challenge accepted.
This was said at supper time, and as it was the period of full moon, Bentley and I decided that we would visit the haunted city that evening.
My people! Yes, they're like, full moon, midnight, let's fucking go.
Our host endeavored to dissuade us, saying that no one ever went over there at night, but as we were not to be deterred, he told us where we would find his small boat tied to a stake on the riverbank. We soon crossed the river and landed at a broad but low stone pier at the land end of which a line of tall grasses waved in the gentle wind as if they were sentinels, warning us from entering the silent city. Anyone who listened to the entirety of The Willows is having some pretty severe flashbacks right now.
I mean, it's creepy, yeah. It's like, woo.
We pushed through these and walked up a street fairly wide and so well paved that we noticed none of the weeds and other growths which generally denote desertion or little use. By the bright light of the moon, we could see that the architecture was simple and of a character highly gratifying to the eye. All the buildings were of stone and of good size. We were greatly excited and interested and proposed to continue our walks until the moon should set and to return on the following morning. To live here, perhaps, said Bentley. What could be so romantic and yet so real? What could conduce better to the marriage of verse and philosophy? But as he said this, we saw around the corner of a cross street some forms as of people hurrying away. The specters, said my companion, laying his hand on my arm. Vagrants, more likely, I answered, who have taken advantage of the superstition of the region to appropriate this comfort and beauty to themselves.
I love the poet. He's like, wouldn't it be romantic to live here and just like live our beautiful lives and yada yada? And they see something, and the poet's like, ooh, ghosts. And the philosopher's like, just fucking people. Like,
most things are just people.
I ain't scared of no ghosts.
Frankly, I'd be more scared if it's just people.
Well,
ghosts
I was
are
going to
less
say,
scary.
Ghosts can't hurt you, really, technically.
Well, it depends on the ghost rules you're following.
It depends on the ghost rules, but technically ghosts can't physically harm you. But people certainly can.
If that be so, said Bentley, we must have care for our lives. So
Exactly.
Bentley's more afraid of people than of ghosts, too.
Well, as he should be.
We proceeded cautiously and soon saw other forms fleeing before us and disappearing, as we supposed, around corners and into houses. And now suddenly finding ourselves upon the edge of a wide open public square, we saw in the dim light, for a tall steeple obscured the moon, the forms of vehicles, horses and men moving here and there. But before, in our astonishment, we could say a word one to the other, the moon moved past the steeple, and in its bright light we could see none of the signs of life and traffic that had just astonished us. The moonlight shows us for what we truly are.
I was going to say, this is the... I was like, ooh, what movie is that? It's the... when the pirates are seen as... Yep. Or it's the opposite. When the moon goes away, they see everything, and then the moon comes out and they can't see anything. It's like, what? Oh, shit.
Timidly, with hearts beating fast, but with not one thought of turning back, nor any fear of vagrants, for we were now sure that what we had seen was not flesh and blood, and therefore harmless, we crossed the open space and entered a street down which the moon shone clearly. Here and there we saw dim figures which quickly disappeared. But approaching a low stone balcony in front of one of the houses, we were surprised to see, sitting thereon and leaning over a book which lay open upon the top of the carved parapet, the figure of a woman who did not appear to notice us. "That is a real person," whispered Bentley, "and she does not see us." "No," I replied, "it is like the others. Let us go near it." We drew near to the balcony and stood there. At this, the figure raised its head and looked at us. It was beautiful, it was young, but its substance seemed to be of an ethereal quality which we had never seen or known of. With its full, soft eyes fixed upon us, it spoke. "Why are you here?" it asked. "I have said to myself that the next time I saw any of you, I would ask you why you come to trouble us. Cannot you live content in your own realms and spheres, knowing, as you must know, how timid we are, and how you frighten us and make us unhappy? In all this city there is, I believe, not one of us except myself who does not flee and hide from you whenever you cruelly come here. Even I would do that had I not declared to myself that I would see you and speak to you and endeavor to prevail upon you to leave us in peace."
That's a very well-spoken ghost.
The clear, frank tones of the speaker gave me courage. "We are two men," I answered, "strangers in this region and living for the time in the beautiful country on the other side of the river. Having heard of this quiet city, we have come to see it for ourselves. We had supposed it to be uninhabited, but now that we find that this is not the case, we would assure you from our hearts that we do not wish to disturb or annoy anyone who lives here. We simply came as honest travelers to view the city." The figure now seated herself again, and as her countenance was nearer to us, we could see that it was filled with pensive thought. For a moment she looked at us without speaking. "Men," she said, "and so I have been right. For a long time I have believed that the beings who sometimes come here, filling us with dread and awe, are men."
Damn right. This is why we choose the bear. She's like, "I knew it."
"And you?" I exclaimed. "Who are you, and who are these forms that we have seen, these strange inhabitants of the city?" She gently smiled as she answered, "We are the ghosts of the future. We are the people who are to live in this city generations hence, but all of us do not know that, principally because we do not think about it and study about it enough to know it. And it is generally believed that the men and women who sometimes come here are ghosts who haunt the place. And that is why you are terrified and flee from us," I exclaimed. "You think we are ghosts from another world." "Yes," she replied. "That is what is thought, and what I used to think."
So each other thinks each other's ghosts.
Well, they sort of are ghosts to each other.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of the lake
time
house.
It's time travel. Yeah. Yeah. Or Arcadia.
They're ghosts from the future.
Literally, like...
It's a Tom Stoppard play.
It's in the same realm, and things move, and it's like, how'd that get here? And it's because it moved in the past. Yeah. Yeah.
Ghosts from the past and ghosts from the future.
And living in the same space.
Do we know who's really a ghost?
Or what time period we're actually in, yeah.
It's a pocket dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And you, I asked, are spirits of human beings yet to be? Yes, she answered, but not for a long time. Generations of men, I know not how many, must pass away before we are men and women. Heavens! Exclaimed Bentley, clasping his hands and raising his eyes to the sky. I shall be a spirit before you are a woman. Perhaps, she said again, with a sweet smile on her face, you may live to be very, very old.
Yeah, if Gerasol comes around.
Anti-Gerasone.
Anti-Gerasone, yes.
But Bentley shook his head. This did not console him. For some minutes, I stood in contemplation, gazing upon the stone pavement beneath my feet. And this, I ejaculated.
No! Don't ejaculate on the lady ghost. That's why they're scared of you.
It's okay. She's non-corporeal. It'll go straight through her.
Yeah, but it's still gross, and she did not give you consent to ejaculate all over her.
She might get ghost impregnated.
She's been so calm. Oh. Maybe she's going to give birth to Bentley.
Ooh.
Because she's like, maybe you will still be alive when you're born.
Ejaculated. If someone from the past impregnates someone from the future, will the baby born in this pocket universe exist in the middle timeline?
I would assume they'd be with the mother. Because, that's where they come out, unless these are seahorses.
No, they're ghosts.
Well, we don't know if they're ghosts.
Future people.
We don't know yet.
Or they're ghosts of past people.
Yeah. We don't know which ones are ghosts, though.
Or there's seahorses.
Or they're all under the sea. Under the sea.
La 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 la.
Also, just don't ejaculate. And she's talking so soft.
And don't ejaculate under the sea, because that just goes everywhere.
Ew. But yes, stop ejaculating. She's speaking so soft. You don't need to be disruptive here in this little town.
Maybe it's her calm demeanor that's getting him so aroused.
He likes librarians.
Yeah, librarian fetish. I mean, brings out his aroused amusement.
She is sitting there with her book and speaking calmly, and talking about the future. So he's like, "Ooh, that's nice. You're arousing my amusement."
And this, I ejaculated, is a city inhabited by the ghosts of the future who believe men and women to be phantoms and specters? She bowed her head. But how is it, I asked, that you discovered that you are spirits and we mortal men? There are so few of us who think of such things, she answered. So few who study, ponder, and reflect. I am fond of study and I love philosophy, and from the reading of many books I have learned much. From the book which I have here I have learned most, and from its teachings I have gradually come to the belief, which you tell me is the true one, that we are spirits and you men. And what is that book? I asked. It is The Philosophy of Relative Existences by Rupert Vance. Ye gods!
Oh, apparently we're in Music Man land. So, yes, librarian.
Yep. I exclaimed, springing upon the balcony. That is my book.
Oh,
I am Rupert Vance. I stepped toward the volume and seized it, but she raised her hand. You cannot touch it, she said. It is the ghost of a book. And did you write it? Write it? No, I said. I am writing it. It is not yet finished.
This is some Back to the Future shit right here. This is wild.
But here it is, she said, turning over the last pages. As a spirit book, it is finished. It is very successful. It is held in high estimation by intelligent thinkers. It is a standard work. I stood trembling with emotion. High estimation, I said. A standard work. Oh, yes, she replied with animation, and it well deserves its great success, especially in its conclusion. I have read it twice. But let me see these concluding pages, I exclaimed. Let me look upon what I am to write. She smiled and shook her head and closed the book. I would like to do that, she said. But if you are really the man, you must not know what you are going to do. It's the bootstrap paradox.
Yeah. Woo! All right. Anyway, good. I didn't know this was a time travel story. This is cool. I just thought it was ghosts, but it's ghosts and time travel.
It's ghosts on a timeline where you can go forward and backward.
Yeah. Ooh.
Anyway, it's a standard work. Yes, well deserves. Read it twice. Blah, blah, blah. I would like to do that, she said. But if you are really a man, you must not know what you are going to do. Oh, tell me, cried Bentley from below. Do you know a book called Stellar Studies by Arthur Bentley? It is a book of poems.
Oh, no.
The figure gazed at him. No, it said presently. I never heard of it.
Ouch! Fuck! That hurts.
I stood trembling. Had the youthful figure before me been flesh and blood, had the book been a real one, I would have torn it from her. Oh, wise and lovely thing, I exclaimed, falling on my knees before her. Be also benign and generous. Let me but see the last page of my book. If I have been of benefit to your world, more than all, if I have been of benefit to you, let me see, I implore you, let me see how it is that I have done it. She rose with the book in her hand. You have only to wait until you have done it, she said, and then you will know all that you could see here. I started to my feet and stood alone upon the balcony. I am sorry, said Bentley, as we walked toward the pier where we had left our boat, that we talked only to that ghost girl and that the other spirits were all afraid of us. Persons whose souls are choked up with philosophy are not apt to care much for poetry, and even if my book is to be widely known, it is easy to see that she may not have heard of it. Sour grapes. What a bitch.
Damn.
I walked triumphant. The moon, almost touching the horizon, beamed like red gold. My dear friend, said I have always told you that you should put more philosophy into your poetry. That would make it live. And I have always told you, he said, that you should not put so much poetry into your philosophy. It misleads people.
Woo-hoo!
It didn't mislead that ghost girl, said I. How do you know? Said Bentley. Perhaps she is wrong, and the other inhabitants of the city are right. And we may be the ghosts after all. Such things, you know, are only relative. Anyway, he continued after a little pause, I wish I knew that those ghosts were now reading the poem which I'm going to begin tomorrow. The end. That was fun.
That was good.
Hey, listeners, I cut out a little chunk earlier in the story that I decided might possibly be a little spoilery, a reaction moment that we had. I'm going to put it in right here, and you're going to see it was possibly sort of maybe right.
Mm-hmm.
Declared to myself that I would see you and speak to you and endeavor to prevail upon you to leave us in peace.
That's a very well-spoken ghost. Or person, and they're dead. Twist. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Like
and all
the
of the people
landlord.
who try to come visit are
People that have
are
recently
ghosts.
passed. Yeah.
all the visitors to this land.
Yeah. And that's why they scare them, because the ghosts scare them. They run away. And they're like, why do these people keep coming here? Like, that was just my thought real quick. I was like, what if it's a twist?
And if that turns out to be true, I'm deleting this entire section.
Okay, yeah.
So that we haven't just
ruined it.
Yeah.
But, okay. Sorry. I just had that thought. I was like,
So yeah, that was a thought that occurred.
I had that thought while they were talking. I was like, what if they're the ghosts? Which is apparently I'm a poet, not a philosopher.
Which is what the poet comes to at the end. Maybe, maybe we're dead all along.
I mean,
I see dead people.
To be fair, I am a poet, not a philosopher. let's be real. I do love their little argument at the end. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like art over like not even art, because philosophy is a form of art, but philosophy can also become very preachy, very I mean, philosophy inherently is preachy, I guess. It's like when you think, like it gives you a way to think about the world.
Mm-hmm.
And art gives you something to interpret. So they're kind of the opposites.
Or kind of the same.
But they're also very much kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like,
because I think art and philosophy both give you a way to think about the world.
They do.
I think
one is a little more words and one is a little more, well, poetry. I guess they're both words.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's how you interpret.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you interpret things. Yeah.
Two sides of the same 20-sided die.
Yeah. 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 The 100-sided die.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. Cool. That was cool. I just read Gothic Ghost was like 2 of the descriptor words when I found this story, and I was like, cool. Which was not wrong.
No, that was
I just wasn't prepared
intriguing.
for time travel story.
Maybe time travel. Maybe just ghosts.
Maybe just a portal. Maybe they were dead the whole time and they went to the future, or they got to see a little bit of the future after they'd passed. Or what? There's a movie. Oh, it's Ghost. It's the movie Ghost. Time. So once you're past, time travels, like time moves differently. Because like when Patrick Swayze's character passes in Ghost, like 3 months pass and he's only been gone for like 3 hours. Or Beetlejuice, same thing, same freaking thing. Like they're gone in that hallway and it's like a year has passed.
Which is actually a thing that, I mean, it's a convention for a movie because you want to build in a way that you can move through real world events but keep your ghost characters in the dark. So like that sort of makes sense. You can jump ahead. But I guess there's also some sort of scientific backing to that, right? In that, assuming ghosts are real.
Yeah.
Let's make that assumption. What a ghost is the sort of the essence of a person minus the body.
Yeah.
And the thing that keeps us from being able to travel at the speed of light is the weight of our physical form.
It's gravity, yeah.
If we were just energy, we could move much more quickly. And time does slow down as you approach the speed of light. For you personally, the faster you are traveling, the slower you are aging relative to the stuff around you. So it would make sense that ghosts would travel through the world
with a different sense of time.
Watch things passing more quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, good job, Frank Stockton.
Yeah.
2 very different stories from him.
Oh, very, yeah.
I do highly recommend you go back and listen to 36. He's really, if you like this story at all, but it's a very different story.
Very different story. Both
very ambiguous.
Ambiguous and philosophical.
Yeah. Very ambiguous.
Yeah.
Like the end, you're like, wait, what? Which one's right? And it leaves you talking, which is great.
You decide.
Which is good art.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I've been enjoying all the Kendrick Lamar talking today of like, what is, do you just not understand something or do you dislike it?
Yeah.
Or do you just not understand it?
Mm-hmm. Well, and so to briefly touch on that, one of the conversations I've seen having is around that in particular is people going like, okay, maybe the issue isn't that it's bad, but that I don't like the music. Okay, fine. However, if I didn't get the message, doesn't that mean that it was badly done?
It depends on
who the target audience was. Depends on who was supposed to get it. Maybe it wasn't for you.
Yes, exactly.
Of course, the problem there is that the people who aren't getting the message seem to be largely the people who were the target of the message.
I don't think they were the target of the message. From everything I've been listening.
The target of the joke.
No, I don't think
the target of the bit.
I think it was supposed to go over their head so that they are not aware that that was a call to action. And there's like, I don't like it. DEI. Anyway, we're not going to go political now, even though this is philosophy that we are having the philosophizing.
Yeah, I'm going mostly towards the question of was it, I suppose, depending on who he wanted to get it, is it successful based on whether or not they get it?
Or is it successful because it was a piece of art and everybody's fucking talking about it?
Yeah.
Because, most Super Bowl shows, it's like, okay, cool, that was fun. Yay. Yeah, but everybody's fucking talking about it, whether they liked it or not.
And frankly, it would be awfully tough not to see one of the spelling it out for you interpretations if you're looking
media.
for it.
Well, yeah, I've posted a few on my pages today of where I'm listening to people that are in the community of Kendrick Lamar and understand the lyrics, and I'm trying to listen. And because I'll tell you what, I couldn't take my fucking eyes off it because I was like, whoa. So watching the breakdown's interesting, but that's art. That's philosophy. That's poetry. Yeah.
Anyway, write in and let us know what you thought of this episode, listeners. Shoot us a message at 5050artsproduction@gmail.com or message us on any of our social media by looking for Campfire Classics Podcast, or continue getting a hold of us however you already have been, if that's a different method than I have mentioned here. I am particularly curious, I guess to a certain extent, what you thought of that halftime show, if you happen to watch it. If you didn't watch it or just don't care, that's fine, no problem. I'm also curious what you would do if you were hanging out in a valley and someone said, oh yeah, that town over there, don't go there at night, it's haunted as fuck.
Actually, he said don't go there anytime.
Don't go there anytime, but everyone goes there once.
You gotta go there at night.
Yeah. And I suppose to a certain extent, just, do you believe in ghosts? When you write in, go ahead and use this week's secret passcode, which is Aroused Amusement.
Aroused Amusement. And tune in next week for bees.
For bees. Yeah. Yeah, that's all from me. You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Then thank you for joining us. And until B Week, this has been Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
La, 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 la. This was a story about death. Huh. That was a reference to Beetlejuice the musical.